The night was colder than usual. The ruined city slept under broken lamps, shattered walls, and streets covered in dust. The wind howled through empty alleys, carrying the smell of smoke and rust. On one side of the alley, a young homeless boy lay curled up, holding his knees close to his chest. He had only one thin blanket, torn and patched many times, but it was the only thing that kept him alive through nights like this. His stomach growled, but he ignored it. Hunger was nothing new. What worried him was the cold. It bit into his skin like knives, making his small body shiver nonstop. He whispered to himself, just one more night, just survive one more night. But then a sound cut through the silence. Not the usual barking dogs, not the footsteps of drunk men, but something else. A heavy, raspy breathing, almost broken, almost dying. The boy sat up quickly, heart racing. His first thought was to run. In this city, strange sounds often meant danger. Still, something inside him pushed him to move toward the sound. Bare feet slapping against the cold stone, he crept deeper into the alley, and then he froze. There, half hidden between trash cans and broken crates, lay a figure. Not a man. Not anyone he had ever seen before. The skin glowed faintly, pale silver with streaks of blue light running through cracks in armor. The face was sharp, the eyes closed, and strange symbols glimmered on the chest plate. The boy had heard stories of aliens, beings who came from the sky, powerful and merciless, but he never thought he would see one lying helpless at his feet. The creature coughed, blood glowing like liquid fire spilling from its mouth. It whispered something in a tongue the boy did not know. A shiver ran down his spine. This thing was dying. The boy looked at his blanket. It was the only thing keeping him alive. If he gave it away, he might freeze before morning. But if he didn't, the alien would certainly die tonight. He hesitated, torn between fear and pity. The streets had taught him to be selfish, to survive by thinking only of himself. Yet, as he looked at the alien's trembling body, something deeper stirred in him. He remembered nights when no one helped him, nights when he had cried alone. Slowly he walked closer. His small hand shook as he pulled the blanket off his shoulders. "Here," he whispered, though he knew the alien might not understand his words. Carefully, he covered the alien's chest, tucking the blanket around. The strange body the way he once saw mothers do for their children. The alien's glowing eyes snapped open for a second. The boy gasped and stepped back. The eyes were not human, sharp, deep, filled with fire, but they were not cruel. For a moment, they locked onto him, and the alien let out a weak sound, almost like a sigh of relief. Its hand twitched, claw-like fingers brushing the boy's arm before falling still again. The boy's heart hammered in his chest. He had no idea what he had just done. Maybe this creature was dangerous. Maybe someone would punish him for helping it. Yet deep down he felt something strange, something warm, as if this act of kindness had lit a tiny spark in the darkness of his life. He sat near the alien for a while, watching its shallow breaths. The city was silent, but every shadow felt heavier now, as if eyes were watching from the darkness. The boy hugged his knees, teeth chattering from the cold, but he stayed close. Hours passed. He fought sleep until his eyelids grew heavy. Just before dawn, he leaned his head against the wall, drifting into a restless slumber. When the first light of morning came, he awoke with a start. The spot where the alien had been was empty. The blanket was gone. Only the faint smell of burnt metal and a strange glowing mark remained on the ground, an insignia burned into the stone, shining faintly like it had been pressed there by heat and fire. The boy touched it with his fingers and it pulsed once, sending a shiver up his arm. His eyes widened. This was no ordinary creature, and deep inside, he knew last night's choice was going to change everything. Morning light spilled over the broken buildings of the ruined city, and the boy rubbed his tired eyes as he searched the alley again, hoping to see the strange glowing creature still lying there. But the place was empty and silent. The blanket he had given away was gone, as if it had been carried into the shadows of the night, leaving only a faint trace behind. On the cold stone ground, He noticed something unusual burned into the earth itself. A symbol glowing faintly with blue fire shaped like a spiral joined with a blade. It was not drawn by human hands. It looked branded as if the creature had pressed its armor into the stone before vanishing. The boy reached out with trembling fingers, and the moment his skin touched the mark it pulsed once, sending a strange shiver through his bones and a warmth into his chest. He jerked his hand back, heart pounding as fear rushed through him. Maybe he had done something terrible. Maybe by helping that alien he had become Mark II. His eyes scanned the street nervously. But the city was waking up around him. Beggars fought over scraps. Merchants shouted their prices and guards stomped through the mud. No one noticed the glowing mark except him. For the rest of the day, the boy felt uneasy. Everywhere he went, he felt as if someone was watching from the corners of the ruins. Every time he blinked, he saw those burning eyes again, sharp and full of fire. Remembering how they locked onto him before fading away, he wondered if the alien had tried to speak to him. Had it whispered something important, words he could not understand echoing in his ears. At night, when the wind grew colder, he returned to the same alley and crouched by the mark, hoping for answers. Instead, he heard voices low and rough carrying through the shadows. 3 men cloaked in torn jackets were searching the streets, their boots heavy against the stones. One of them growled. He was seen. He gave it something. We must find him before the others do. The boy's stomach turned icy. He ducked behind a pile of crates, pressing himself into the wood while his mind raced. They were not speaking about food or money. They were hunting him. Someone must have seen him give away the blanket. Someone had told these strangers now they were looking for the boy who dared to help. One of them lifted a strange device glowing faintly green like broken glass. Pieced together, it beeped when pointed toward the mark on the ground. The man hissed. He was here last night. The creature was here too. The commander will want to know. His voice carried authority and danger. The boy held his breath as the device pulsed again. Then the men moved deeper into the street, searching. When silence returned, the boy collapsed against the wall. Shaking all over, he realized the alien had not only vanished, it had left him in danger and in connection to something larger than his small alley life. That night he could not sleep. He lay awake on cold stone without his blanket, teeth chattering, every sound around him magnified. The barking of dogs, the cries of drunks, the whistle of the wind. But worst of all, the memory of the alien's glowing blood dripping on the ground kept flashing in his mind. He felt he had been chosen, but chosen for what he did not know. Before dawn, his eyes closed for only a moment and he dreamed in flashes fire across the sky. Armored figures marching, their weapons blazing, and the alien he had helped standing tall, whispering words that almost became clear. Protector of honor. The dream shattered. As he woke gasping, the boy wiped sweat from his forehead, his heart racing in the quiet morning. The city still slept, but in his chest he felt the mark burning faint and alive, and he knew whatever was coming. It was not just for the alien. It was for him. The sun rose weak and pale over the ruined city, its light spilling across rooftops like broken glass. The boy wandered the streets with his stomach empty and his body weak but his mind restless. All night, he had thought about the glowing mark and the men who hunted him. Whispers of danger followed his every step. Yet curiosity kept pulling him back to the place where the alien had vanished. He returned to the alley. His heart racing, the glowing insignia on the ground was fading, but still alive, pulsing faintly as if waiting for something as he crouched near it. A sudden tremor shook the stones beneath his feet. Dust fell from the walls. Pigeons burst into the air, wings flapping wildly. The boy stumbled back, eyes wide. The trembling grew stronger, like the ground itself was breathing. People in the nearby streets shouted and pointed toward the sky, and when the boy lifted his gaze, his mouth fell open, for high above the city, clouds split apart with a roar of thunder and something massive descended from the heavens. A ship unlike anything he had ever seen floated downward, its hull black like night itself, glowing veins of silver running along its sides. It moved without sound, except for the humming vibration that rattled windows and made bones ache. The air smelled of iron and fire. People screamed, some fell to their knees, others ran in panic, but the boy could not move. From the belly of the ship, light poured out and a ramp lowered slowly with precision. Then came the sound of boots, heavy and in perfect rhythm. 200 figures marched down clad in armor that gleamed with the same silver glow as the insignia. Each step struck the ground like thunder. Each breath hissed through helmets, shaped like predators of the deep woods. Weapons crackling with energy rested in their hands. The city froze. Guards, merchants, beggars all stood powerless before the sight. The alien warriors moved with discipline, forming ranks that stretched across the square. The boy stood trembling, his thin frame swallowed by shadows as he pressed against the alley wall, hoping not to be seen. But then the commander stepped forward, taller than the rest, his armor lined with crimson light, a long blade resting across his back. He raised one hand, and the entire host fell silent. The only sound left was the echo of wind rushing between buildings. His voice rolled like thunder, speaking words that most could not understand yet. They carried weight and power. Then he spoke again in broken human tongue, searching carefully for words. One of ours was saved here last night. Who gave the warmth? Who gave the blanket? The boy's blood turned cold. The crowd muttered, fear spreading like fire among dry leaves. People shook their heads. No one dared to answer. Some shouted lies, claiming no child had been seen. Others warned anyone who stepped forward would be killed by these invaders. The commander's glowing eyes scanned the crowd slowly, and then they stopped. They fixed on the alley where the boy stood, half hidden. He tried to shrink back, but his legs would not move. His chest rose and fell, with shallow breaths, until he realized there was no escape. He had already been seen. A silence heavier than stone wrapped around the square. The commander lifted one hand, pointing directly at him. The boy's knees shook as people turned, staring. With wide eyes, whispers filled the air, some in disbelief, some in pity. The boy stepped forward, small and fragile against the towering soldiers, his voice cracked but steady. It was me. I gave the blanket. The words hung in the air like a blade. No one dared to move, no one dared to speak. All waited for the commander's judgment. The boy squeezed his fists, bracing for punishment or death. But instead the commander slowly lowered to one knee, his massive frame bowing before the boy, his voice deep and resonant, echoing through the city. Protector of honor. Behind him, 200 alien warriors slammed their weapons into the ground in perfect unison. The sound shook the ruins like an earthquake as they bowed their heads to the boy. The world seemed to stop in that moment, the homeless child standing in rags before an army that treated him like a king. His heart pounded with fear and awe as he realized his life had changed forever. The square of the ruined city stood frozen, as if time itself had stopped. The boy trembled in the center with 200 alien warriors bowing their heads. The crowd pressed back against broken walls. Some gasped in awe. Others muttered in fear. The commander knelt before the boy, his armor glowing with faint crimson light, his blade still across his back. The boy's voice cracked as he whispered, "Why me? Why are you here?" The commander lifted his head, eyes burning with strange fire, and his voice rumbled across the stones. One of ours was dying here, one of ours was given warmth, no coin, no gain, only kindness, and now debt must be answered. The crowd erupted with noise. Some shouted, "He is cursed." Others cried, "He is chosen." Merchants pulled their children away. Guards looked uncertain. One man yelled, "Take him away before they destroy us." But the alien soldiers did not move, their discipline unbroken, their gaze locked on the boy alone. The commander rose to his full height, towering above all others. He extended a hand. The boy flinched, but did not run. He had survived cold, hunger, cruelty, yet nothing prepared him for this moment. Slowly, the commander's clawed fingers opened, and within his palm glimmered a shard of crystal blue light swirling inside it, like living flame. "This is the bond, the commander," said, voice steady. "You gave life, and now life binds to you. Protector of honor." The boy's breath shook as he reached out. His small fingers brushed the crystal, and it pulsed, warmth flooding into him, spreading through his chest like fire. His knees nearly gave way, but he held on. The crowd gasped again as the crystal floated from the commander's hand, sinking into the boy's skin and vanishing, leaving a faint glow over his heart. The boy fell to his knees, clutching his chest, his breath ragged, his mind filled with flashes of images, stars burning ships, soaring blades clashing, and the dying alien whispering words he could almost hear clearly now. Protector of honor. It echoed again and again. When he lifted his eyes, the commander knelt once, more lowering his blade across his knees. "We serve you until the debt is ended," he declared. His warriors struck their weapons against the ground. The sound rolled like thunder, shaking windows, dust falling from crumbling roofs. The city was split between fear and wonder. Some knelt beside the soldiers, believing the boy was blessed. Others screamed, "This will bring doom. He is nothing but a homeless rat." The boy heard their voices like knives cutting into him, yet the soldiers ignored all others there, vow unshaken. A woman pushed forward, clutching her child. She cried, "Please take him away. They will destroy us if he stays." The boy's stomach twisted. He looked at the crowd and saw hate, suspicion, envy in their eyes. People who once never noticed him now stared as if he carried fire too dangerous to touch. The commander turned to the crowd. His voice like rolling storms. "The protector showed honor. When none of you did, you feared, you fled, yet he gave what little he had. Our law is clear. Honor must be repaid." The people fell silent. No one dared answer. Some lowered their heads in shame. Others clenched fists in anger. The boy felt trapped between worlds, too small for the weight now pressing on his shoulders. The commander faced him again and asked with calm strength, "Do you accept the bond? Do you accept the duty?" The boy's chest ached, the warmth of the crystal still burning within him. His eyes filled with fear, and yet something stronger than fear pushed back a fragile courage, rising from the same place that made him give away his only blanket. He nodded, voice shaking but steady. "I accept." The commander bowed his head again. "Protector of honor, your word is given, your word is law for us until our vow is done." The 200 warriors slammed their weapons once more, and the earth quaked beneath their feet. The boy swayed as if the world itself had shifted. He was no longer only a child of the alley. He was something else, something greater. The boy stood trembling, his thin frame wrapped in fear and fire. The vow of 200 alien warriors echoing across the ruined square. People of the city still whispered behind broken walls, some with envy, some with terror, some with silent hope. Yet none dared to challenge what they had witnessed. The commander stepped closer, his crimson armor glowing faintly under the pale sun, and his heavy voice rumbled, "Protector of honor, you are no longer only child of the streets, you are chosen, you are guardian." The boy's knees weakened. He wanted to deny it. He wanted to say he was nothing but hunger and rags, but the warmth burning in his chest from the crystal would not let him speak the lie. Instead, he lowered his head, whispering, "I am afraid." The commander placed a clawed hand gently on his shoulder and said, "Fear is truth, but courage is action. Without courage, your kindness would not have been given, and without courage, our brother would have died." From within his armor, the commander drew a strange device no larger than a fist. Its surface shimmered like liquid metal. Changing shape as it moved, he held it out to the boy. The crowd gasped. The boy's hands shook as he reached for it. The device pulsed alive when his skin touched it. It wrapped his palm with strands of light, forming a bracer that locked around his wrist, glowing with the same insignia that had been burned into the stone. "This is a relic of our kin," the commander declared. "It listens only to honor, it obeys only to courage. Now, it is bound to you, guardian of honor." The boy felt a surge of energy rush through him. His eyes widened as the device hummed and strange symbols floated above it, shifting like living fire. He did not understand the language, but somehow his heart knew the meaning. Protection, guidance, connection, a bridge between worlds. The crowd recoiled, some cried witchcraft, some fell to their knees whispering prayers. A guard spat and muttered, "This cursed child will bring destruction." But none dared to act against 200 warriors, standing like a wall of silver. The boy stared at the bracer, its light reflecting in his frightened eyes. He whispered, "What am I supposed to do with this?" The commander replied, "You survive, you lead, you guard those who cannot guard themselves. The vow of warriors is not to command you, but to stand until the debt is repaid. Every choice you make, every word you give will shape the bond." The boy's mind swirled. He remembered the cold nights without food, the cruel laughter of gangs, the endless hunger. Now the same streets trembled because he had chosen once to share warmth. He wanted to run, He wanted to vanish, but he also felt a strength growing like roots taking hold in his heart. The commander raised his blade high and shouted, "Protector, of honor, guardian of the weak and the vow of the fallen, today you rise and we rise with you." The warriors slammed their weapons against the ground. The earth shook once more. The people of the city scattered, some vanishing into alleys, some kneeling, in respect, some cursing in fear. Yet the boy stood at the center, unable to escape the fate placed upon him. When the square emptied, the commander bent low, speaking softly only for him. "You may still walk away, child. You may still throw the bracer into the dust and our vow will remain unfulfilled, but if you choose to carry it, your path will never again be small." The boy closed his eyes, his breath shallow, his hand trembling as he touched the glowing bracer. The warmth spread again, not like fire, but like a shield wrapping his heart. He remembered the alien's eyes filled with pain, yet softened by his gift. He remembered the touch of clawed fingers, weak but grateful. He opened his eyes and whispered, "I will carry it." The commander nodded, slowly, his face unreadable, yet his voice carried respect. "Then, guardian, you are no longer alone." The boy walked through the streets with the alien warriors behind him, their silver armor glowing faintly like moonlight, and their steps heavy like drums of war. The people stared with wide eyes. Mothers pulled children. Close merchants shut their stalls, beggars bowed in fear, and guards gripped their weapons tightly. Whispers rose like smoke through the city. The homeless rat now commands an army. The cursed child carries power, greater than kings. Every corner he passed felt colder, every eye burned with suspicion. Men who once ignored him now spat curses. Women who once gave him scraps of bread now turned away in silence. Gangs who once mocked him now whispered plans in the dark corners, their voices dripping with jealousy and fear. He was no longer invisible, he was now a storm hanging over them. At night, the boy sat in the ruins of an old temple, the bracer glowing faintly on his wrist, pulsing like a heartbeat. The commander knelt across from him, his voice calm yet heavy. "The city will not accept you easily. Guardian, they fear what they cannot control. They will try to own you or destroy you." The boy shivered, asking why they hate me for what I did. The commander replied, "Because you showed honor where they showed nothing, and now you hold what they cannot grasp." The boy pressed his face into his knees, tears burning his eyes. "I never wanted this. I only wanted to survive." The commander placed a hand on his shoulder. "Your wish was survival, yet survival came to you through sacrifice. Now fate has turned your kindness into a weapon. You must choose how to wield it." The next morning, chaos grew louder. Merchants gathered in the square, shouting, "This boy brings danger." Gangs painted warnings on walls, symbols of hatred. Guards whispered to captains that the child should be handed over to the men who hunted him. The city was dividing. Some called him protector, some called him plague. By midday, a group of men approached the boy, offering him gold and shelter if he commanded the warriors to guard their trade routes. The commander refused before the boy could answer, his voice thunderous. "Our vow is not for profit. Our vow is not for greed. It is for honor." Only still the men left with dark eyes and darker whispers. That night the boy overheard voices drifting through the cracks of the temple walls. Men gathering in the alleys, blades in their hands, anger in their throats. One spat, "We cannot allow a child to hold such power." Another growled, "If we kill him, the warriors will have no master. If we break him, the city will belong to us." The boy's heart pounded, fear twisting his stomach. He told the commander of what he heard, and the commander nodded grimly. "Your people will turn on you before we leave. Their fear is deeper than loyalty, their envy stronger than gratitude." The boy shivered and whispered, "Then what should I do?" The commander's glowing eyes softened. "You stand tall, guardian, even when your knees shake. You hold the bracer even when your hand trembles. The bond we carry cannot be broken by knives or by lies." The boy sat in silence, listening to the bracer hum like a low song against his skin. He felt the weight of a world pressing on his small shoulders, yet he also felt the warmth that had once left him when he gave away his blanket to a dying stranger. He knew the same warmth was guiding him still. Outside, the city rumbled like a beast hungry for blood. Shadows moved with whispers. Blades gleamed under weak lantern light. Enemies were closing. In preparing to strike but within the temple, the boy held his breath, and the bracer pulsed stronger than ever as if it knew the storm was about to break. The night of betrayal came with silence too heavy for comfort. The ruined city seemed to hold. Its breath, the boy sat inside the broken temple. The bracer glowing brighter than ever, the commander stood nearby, his armor casting faint crimson light. The warriors formed a circle outside like statues waiting for the storm. They knew was close. Whispers, carried on the wind torches, flickered in the alleys. Shadows of men with blades crept closer. Gangs, merchants, guards, even common folk, all drawn together by envy and fear. They came not as one army but as a tide of desperate faces united by hatred, of a child who carried what they could not control. The boy trembled, his chest heavy with fear, his small hands clutched the bracer. The commander spoke with steady voice. "Guardian, the choice will come soon. When the crowd breaks into flame, they will demand you. They will demand your power if you choose to fight. We fight if you choose to leave." "We leave," the boy swallowed hard, whispering, "I do not want blood spilled for me." The commander lowered his head, his voice softer than before, yet still heavy. "With weight, blood will spill no matter what, Guardian. But your choice decides if it will drown the city or vanish into the sky." The temple doors rattled under the fists of angry men. Voices rose shouting, "Curse! The child, kill him before he curses." As all, the boy covered his ears, tears in his eyes, the warmth of the bracer pulsing through his veins. The commander placed a hand on his shoulder, calm yet unyielding. "The vow is yours to guide. Protector of honor, your word is law for us." The boy stood, trembling, his legs weak but his spirit burning brighter. He stepped outside the temple, light from the bracer flaring across the ruins. The mob froze, staring with wide eyes, their blades raised but their courage shaken by the glow. He raised his hand, his voice breaking yet echoing across the square. "I never asked for this. I never wanted to be your enemy. I only gave warmth to one who was dying." The crowd shouted lies, curses, some spat at the ground. Others cried for mercy, torn between fear and shame. The boy raised his hand higher. The bracer humming like thunder behind him, 200 alien warriors struck their weapons into the earth. The ground shook, dust rising into the air like smoke. The crowd staggered back, hearts pounding. The commander looked at him silently, waiting for his choice. The boy's chest heaved, his mind racing. He could command the warriors to strike. He could command fire to fall from the ship still hovering above. He could take revenge on all who had hated him, but deep in his heart he remembered the cold alley. He remembered the dying alien's eyes and the warmth of giving his only blanket. With shaking breath he turned to the commander and whispered, "Leave, take me with you. I cannot let them suffer because of me." The commander bowed his head, voice deep and certain, "Your choice is made. Guardian of honor." The ramp of the ship opened, light pouring down like dawn. The warriors turned in unison, their steps heavy yet graceful. They marched with discipline. Back into the vessel, the commander guided the boy forward. The mob fell silent, watching with fear and awe, unable to stop what was happening. The boy climbed the ramp, his rags glowing with the light of alien fire. As the ship lifted into the sky, the boy looked down one last time at the city that had abandoned him, the place of hunger, cruelty, and betrayal. He felt no hatred, only a quiet ache. The bracer pulsed warm against his skin, reminding him that his path had only begun. The vessel rose higher, clouds swallowing its shape, the roar of engines shaking the heavens. 200 warriors stood in silence around their guardian protector of honor, bound by vow and destiny. The boy closed his eyes, whispering to himself, "I gave only a blanket, and in return I was given the stars."